There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in. Good morning, my beautiful people. I am here with the very first male on the podcast. I'm so excited because this is Dre Baldwin, and we have so many similarities in how we work and how we coach, and obviously the value that we bring to you in taking action. Dre Baldwin is CEO and founder of Work on Your Game, Inc. He has given 4 TEDx talks and has authored 33 books. Dre had a 9-year professional basketball career playing in 8 countries. Dre's framework is the roadmap in reverse for professional mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. Dre, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk accountability.
I'm excited to be the first male on this podcast. So I appreciate you having me on, Marcy. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
All right. So I wrote a book, The Accountability Code. I joke that it's my 5th baby because it took me 40 weeks from conception to labor. How'd you do 33 books? Like, what was your first one, and why did you decide to write another one and then a 31 more after that?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that. My answer is Google Docs is number one, how I write my books. And my first book was about just my story. This is back when I was in my basketball days, which we'll talk about. And it was just, at that time, I had nothing but basketball players following me. So they wanted to know about my background. Who's this guy? How'd you come from that to get to this? And I just wrote that story out because I've always been a writer. I was a writer even before I was an athlete. So I've always been a writer. And at that time, self-publishing had started to become ubiquitous and easily accessible for anybody. So I just went and typed up the PDF of my first book. It was a very poorly written book, but nobody complained about the typos and the misspelling. Nobody complained about any of it because I had such a dialed in audience at that time. They just wanted to know the story. So that was my first book. And then the next books just were based off of what my audience was saying to me. Like, Dre, can you write a book about this? Or can you talk about this? Or since you write books, Dre, can you write about this? That's how it was. And coming from the sports world, Marcy, I don't know how much you pay attention to sports, but athletes don't read books. Right? They don't. They play sports. So the fact that I got a bunch of athletes to actually read books, I got a lot of athletes reach out to me and said, Dre, I never read books, but I read your book. So
nice.
I always liked that got them into reading books because they saw this guy who could play ball. Oh, he writes books. Okay, I'll read that book. And that's where it got started.
Yeah. I have a friend who always calls me David Goggins. She's like, you're just like David Goggins. And I was like, I don't even know who that is. And I dove into his books. And you reminded me a lot of him. And I'm like, well, now I know somebody that I can relate to all about accountability, because there is a balance between having mental toughness and really like sifting through your own personal spirit and what that means to you. So what I would love to do is take you through my process of the accountability code. And listeners, I'm talking to an expert, okay? Dre has published over 8,000 videos on YouTube. He's got over 100,000 subscribers, obviously written 33 books. So I'm talking to somebody who knows what to do. So my intention with taking you through the accountability code, Dre, is I would love for you to share your nuggets along the way with each of the steps in the accountability code. So are you ready?
Yes, and I will tell you one thing before you move on, is that I get mistaken for David Goggins like once every 3 weeks. Somebody says, anybody ever tell you like David Goggins? I think I'll go a lot better than him, but I get it. Tall, black guy, thin with a bald head. So we all look the same. We all look the same.
That's funny. As we go through the code, I would love for you to just, be as real as you would like to. I know somebody who's putting their face out on the internet every day has no problem with that. But disclaimer, the accountability code only works if you're honest. Okay. So if you feel like, I don't really want to go there, you don't have to, but this process will help you later on. But really, I just want to pull all the goodness out. I'm sure you charge a lot of money for your coaching, and I have you for the next 30 minutes. So I'm excited about that. Right. Okay. The first step of the accountability code is reflection. Reflection is thinking on your goals, your values, and your problems. What has been taking up a lot of your mental energy lately? Something that you want to pursue?
That's a good question. Number one thing takes up my mental energy right now is really just moving people into my program. So our main offering is called Work on Your Game University. So really just thinking of what are different ways we can make sure that I'm continually getting that in front of people to bring them into my world, aside from just spending more money on ads, because don't want to always do that, because you never know when that slap's going to come and everything could fall apart if all your business is based on that. So that's the number one thing for me. And can I add something else to this with what you said? So when I was in the basketball space, was for 10 years, that's all I posted on the internet was just basketball stuff, and then a little bit of mindset. But a lot of athletes, big thing with athletes was I always had to tell them, listen, if you're not playing, you're not getting the ball in the game, because my sport was basketball, or your teammates are not respecting you, or you're playing in games and not scoring any points. It's not because your teammates are hating on you, or your parents are not letting you practice enough, or the coach is a dummy. It's probably because you can't play. You just need to get better. All right? You need to reflect on your game and your performance and figure out why this is happening. Because my background is I barely played in high school. I played 1 year of high school basketball and sat the bench that 1 year. I walked on to play Division III college sports. And I would tell athletes, and this is when I first started to get a little bit prominent through basketball videos online. I said to the athletes, when I wasn't making the team in high school, I never blamed the coach. I said, I just got to become a better player. Right? And when I wasn't playing the way that I wanted to, let's say in college, I didn't hate on the coach. I might have been annoyed with the coach, but overall I had to look at myself and say, what am I doing? What am I not doing? Reflecting, that is causing this situation, because you can't control other people. You can only control yourself. So even if you think somebody else is messing up and you think they're bad or stupid or hating or whatever, you can't control them. What are you going to do to change the situation? So that reflective part is a big deal over here, as I'm sure it is with you. I mean, it's your first principle.
Yeah. And I tell people too, we are experts at reflecting because we just can't stop. That's the gift of the human experience, is right. We get to decide what's going on the inside, and then we're given a body to follow through with that. So I love that. If I am saying this correctly, you want to get more people in your programs without running ads. I fully believe that that's a very worthy thing to do, because there's a lot of places we don't own what happens to our content, but nobody can be you. So that's really cool. Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook, and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in. This brings us to the second step of the accountability code, which is humility. So humility is a modest view of who you are now related to who you can be. So I also like to say that humility is tapping into the sources that you have available to you. So when it comes to getting more people in your program, what are you not taking advantage of? Like, what things are out there that you're like, I could probably do that, or I probably need to ask this person. What's out there that you're not all that in a bag of chips yet, but why? What have you been neglecting?
That's another great question. So I like this. So what I tell people myself is that when it comes to getting yourself out there, you can run ads, you can collaborate, and you can create content, especially if you're talking about the internet. So for me, I'm always looking to collaborate, find someone who already has an audience of people who are aligned with what I'm looking for, and seeing how can I get in front of that audience, whether that's we do a joint venture, we do some type of affiliate deal. Hey, maybe I'll just pay you, say, hey, let me get a message in front of your audience. Maybe I say, hey, bring me on your podcast. Let's have a conversation, whatever the situation may be. And then creating content myself. So I do live streams all the time, send emails out all the time. I got an email I need to send this afternoon. As a matter of fact, I try to send between 750,000 to 1 million emails a month, marketing messages. So I'm always reaching out to my audiences and just making sure they know, hey, I'm here. So whenever they're ready to take action, I'm the first person that they think of. So just making sure that I'm continually taking advantage of the channels available. And even if somebody had replied to one of my emails last week and said, Dre, I keep getting the same email. I think you might have an automation issue. I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, that's not an automation issue. I sent that message that many times to where you just keep noticing it. That's not, and I'm about to send it again today. So it's just continually reaching out. And also on humility, if you don't mind me adding on here, is I always tell people that, because people always ask about confidence, especially athletes, because they got to perform in front of all these people. And I tell people that you have to have the humility to earn your confidence, because when you're humble as an athlete, for example, You're humble enough to understand that you're not perfect, which means you need to get up and go to the gym and work on your game. And working on your game earns you the right to be confident when it's time to play. So humility actually serves confidence. So some people talk about them as if they're diametrically opposed, but they're actually not. They support each other.
Yeah, definitely. I share in my book, and listeners can get my audiobook for free, that I studied humility in depth because my dad compared me to Satan. And that Satan has no humility. Yeah, that gives you a little taste, what our relationship is like. It's definitely not a healthy one that I pursue. And I like that you said that humility gives you the confidence, because you got to get where you're going. And it's not going to happen by accident, not at all. And humility, bringing it back to your initial goal of, wanting to get more clients, what is it about what you're doing right now that makes you want to have that goal? Do you feel like you're not reaching enough people? Do you feel like you're not doing a good enough job? Why is your goal of reaching more people your goal in the first place?
No, it's not that I don't feel like I'm reaching enough or doing well. I'm always not reaching enough, but it's not that I'm not doing a good enough job. I think I'm doing a great job, which is why I want to reach more people, because more people could use this if they knew about it. So it's always my responsibility to make sure they know about it. So as an entrepreneur, your number one job is marketing. And people don't know you exist, you can't make any money and you can't help them. So that's why I believe anytime I'm helping a client and they're getting results, I'm like, damn, 100 more people should be hearing this conversation. And that's my job to make sure that they know about it.
Perfect. Is there anything about what you're doing that's not working right now that needs to be addressed before you move forward with more time and energy and money?
On a specific level, my Facebook page got hacked, so I can't run ads right now anyway, even if I wanted to. So I'm waiting for Facebook to get back to me. I sent them all the documentation. You got to sign a form and test all this stuff. So I'm waiting for them to get my page back so I can actually run ads, because I'm ready. But other than that, still using the other methods of getting the word out, because listen, at some point ads may be too expensive to run anyway. So might as well get ready.
Yeah, perfect. And you're doing a great job of having lots of other revenue streams or avenues for getting the word out there. All right, that brings us to the third step of the accountability code, which is planning. So planning is a detailed proposal for success. By the way that I have seen your stuff already, it's very clear you got a plan in place, with all of your automation. This was the first time I had an assistant book the podcast instead of the actual person. So what parts of your plan maybe have we not discussed yet when it comes to getting your word out to more people?
It's funny, Marcy. I tell people that plans are useless, but planning is priceless. Because the plans that we make, usually nothing works exactly according to the plan, right? Things don't ever go exactly as we expected. But the time that we spend thinking about how they're going to go and planning out how we are going to behave is worth it, because we will maybe notice some things that don't make sense when we actually are planning out what we're going to do, or how is that actually going to happen. There's a big jump from point number 3 to point number 4 that doesn't make sense. And when we start questioning ourselves, we got to have the humility, going back to your previous point, to question ourselves, and we're kind of reflecting in reverse before we even do anything. So all your points are well connected here. So you did a great job putting this together. This is my first time hearing it. So that's the great thing about planning, even though I was never a big planner, but one of my first mentors said to me, Dre, you should always spend 20% of your time planning, even if you don't even use the plan, because you're putting your brain to work, and the brain is the most powerful tool known to man. So could you tell me your question again? I went on a tangent there.
No, I think that was great. I don't even know if I can remember my question, but I was thinking too that, when I got into sales years and years ago, my coach told me, we can't have a baby shower for you unless you're pregnant. So what work are you doing that proves your need for this resource or this opportunity or this thing? And so to repeat your thing again, if I get it right, planning is useless, but it's also
plans are useless.
Plans are useless, but planning is priceless.
That's right.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. When it comes to a plan too, it's you don't actually know your capabilities until you start to measure them up against specific opportunities. Just like, playing basketball, when you're like, no, I didn't play every year. Why? You weren't good enough, or it wasn't the time or whatever, but that planning got you to where you're going to be, even though the plan wasn't exactly maybe what you thought it would be. So love that. Fourth step of the accountability code is implementing. Implementing is putting into use your desired skills or values. So I'm sure this is where you've got a ton of implementing, because implementing is showing up. But tell me and tell the listeners how implementing along the way helped you see the things you were looking for.
It's great. You know, you mentioned a minute ago this first time you had an assistant reach out to have a guest on your show, and that implementation comes from the fact that I took time to plan and think about, okay, if I'm going to reach out to a show, let's say like this show, Marcy Barker, and be on it, could I teach this to somebody else? Could I delegate this to someone else? So I remember reading Tim Ferriss over a decade ago, and in his 4-hour work week, he talked about how he had to learn delegation so he could get himself out of, basically running himself into the ground in the business he was running before he became a famous author, podcaster, etc. And I said, I can delegate. That communication skill allowed me to do that. So, and what's this fourth one? What's it called again? Implementing. So the implementation for me is anytime I bring a new person on to work with me or work for me, is I had to be able to communicate to them how I want them to implement the work. Even if they're bringing their own talent to it, I tell them why I want it done and what I want done, even if I'm not telling them how to do it. Now, sometimes I'm telling them how to do it, depending on who it is and what they're doing. And I think over the next 10 years, Marcy, as AI comes along, I think we're going to be telling AI software exactly what to do, and they'll just do it for us. I think that day is coming very soon. So for me, it's just that communication ability, and that goes into codification, was a big thing that I talk about often, especially with people in the thought leadership space, because the only way you can be a thought leader is you got to be able to codify what you know and what you believe and be able to teach it to somebody else. Like a book is codification of our knowledge. A podcast is codification, a course, a coaching program, a mastermind. All that is us taking what's in our heads, codifying it in a way that somebody who knows less than us can understand it. And we have to have the clear communication skill in order to do that. So communication in itself is a form of implementation, at least when we're disseminating. And communication is also taking in information, which a lot of people seem to forget. But that getting it out there to people, that is implementation of our codified knowledge. And the better you are at it, the better you'll be able to get your stuff out to other people.
I love that. And I think it can be summed up as practicing what you preach. There's nothing that you can codify that you don't already have in your bones, in your ability somewhere. So that's really, really cool. Okay. The fifth step of the accountability code is commitment. Commitment is dedicating yourself to a person or a cause. I like to say commitments are black and white. They can be proven. You either did them or you didn't do them. So let's say in your plan of getting more people in your program, what are some of those commitments or measurable things that you talk to your team about? And you're like, are we hitting it or are we not? Like, what are some of those things that are important to you as a business owner?
Well, one of them is making sure that I'm consistently reaching out to the audience. So this is something and consistently means we can put numbers to it. So for example, if I want to reach out to people who have their own platform, we want to reach out to 20 people a week who already have a platform. Not everybody's going to say yes. Not everybody's even going to respond, but we want to make sure that we're sending the communication out. When it comes to sending emails to my list, I think the email plan that I have right now, I think the base rate we pay for is 700,000 emails a month. So I always try to go a little bit over. So I try to send 1 million. So I know how much it's going to cost if I send 1 million emails every single month. So I'm doing that on a consistent basis. What's another one? As far as the content creation, I put out content every single day. That's already it's basically scheduled, as etched in stone. So I already know that stuff is coming out. Doing live streams. I was just doing a live stream before we started this recording. So making sure that I'm continually doing that. So these are all things that can be measured and looked at. And then bottom line, we want to look at the outcomes. Are we having sales calls? How many sales calls are we having? How many are we closing? I already know what the close rate is going to be. I know if I get on the phone with this many people, we're going to get this many closes. I know what the prices are. We know what we're going to make. So it's just a matter of making sure that those numbers are being hit. And then over time, can we multiply that out? So most people in business call that scaling. Can we multiply that out and bring other people in, maybe other people who I trust to get on sales calls and close them on my behalf, bring them into programs? Are there other ways we can get people into the room? If they can't come into the program the normal way, is there a backdoor way we can get them in? And we have other programs going on now that I don't even advertise to kind of get people in. Maybe they can't invest up front, but if we do this, can we help them get into a position where they can invest? So always looking for different ways that we can get people into the main thing, whatever that main thing happens to be. And all different companies do this. They do it in ways that people usually don't notice if you don't know what's going on. But a lot of companies, big companies, small companies, they all do this.
Yeah, I love that. I have quite a few clients who are all about the commitments. They're like, it doesn't matter what it is, we'll do it. And I have one client, she gets everything done on her list, and she was selling her house and she was a little bit worried about it all working out the way it was supposed to. And I said, why don't we just put this on your commitment items that your house is going to be under contract within 2 weeks? And she's like, let's do it. Let's put it on there. And because she made it a commitment, she started acting as if that was the only thing that was going to happen. And sure enough, it happened. So I want to ask you a question. How do you deal with people who say they're going to do something and then they don't do it? Or people who say like, well, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to keep that commitment. I know you have a ton of content on this, but on a more patient side, what do you do with people who are just not hitting the mark like expected?
Okay, so who are these people? Is this like a friend of mine? Is it a client? Is it somebody I'm working for? Who is it?
I think anybody that comes to mind for you right now. What's the last situation you had where, somebody fell short and you had to deal with that?
Okay, let's just say it's somebody who somebody fell short and they didn't do what they said they were going to do. Let's say I had
has it ever, has it been you lately?
Have I ever fell short? Oh yeah, absolutely. And if I do, all I'm looking at is the structure. So what I tell people is every discipline challenge is a structural challenge. And what happens with a lot of folks is when they are not, almost everybody says they want to be more disciplined. You ask an audience of people, do you want to be more disciplined in anything? Everybody will laugh and say, yeah, of course. So when your discipline is coming up short, many people's recourse is to push themselves harder. I just need to be more disciplined. Let me make myself be more consistent. Let me make myself push away from the dinner table. Let me make myself go to the gym more often. Let me make myself publish more blog posts or whatever it is going to be. The thing is that usually doesn't work because you're just trying to push yourself into doing something that you aren't already doing. And the thing that you actually need to do, however, is put the structure in place that makes the discipline easy. See, structure produces discipline. It's not the other way around. Discipline does not produce structure. When you have structure, then it's easy to be disciplined. So for example, if somebody wants to work out, let's say you want to lose 20 pounds and they've been trying to lose 20 pounds, haven't been able to do it. You could keep telling yourself, oh, I got to go to the gym. I got to go to the gym. I got to make myself do it. I got to get up early. I got to get up at 5 instead of 6 so I can get that hour workout in and then go to work instead of sleeping until 6 o'clock. You can keep telling yourself that. It's probably not going to work. So anytime I'm working with someone or even myself and I'm not getting the outcome that I want, I'm always asking myself, okay, how can I alter the structure here so that the discipline part becomes easy? Because clearly something in my structure is allowing this slippage to occur and is allowing it to continue. So the thing is, we want to look at the structure. How can we change this structure that makes it easy? So let's say you're talking to someone who wants to lose weight. What we need to do is figure out, all right, what are you doing when you do go to the gym that's causing you to not go to the gym consistently? Do you have a trainer? Maybe you need one so that when you get to the gym, you're not looking at it as a drag because you get there and then you mess around, you sit on some machines, messing with your phone, not doing anything. 45 minutes go by, then you go home, you didn't really get anything in. But you have a trainer, then you know the trainer's waiting on you. You know they're expecting you at a certain time. They're going to tell you exactly what to do for that 45 minutes. You're not going to waste any time. And you're going to actually get results, which makes it easier to stay disciplined. So the structure allows the discipline to occur. And a lot of people get that equation backwards. And this is why a lot of people struggle with discipline, because when they're not being as disciplined as they want, they just try to force feed it. And you cannot force discipline, not for a long period of time. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And even if you master discipline, if it's on a goal that's not yours, it's never going to stick. And it won't be fulfilling. You're going to just run yourself into the ground, creating a life that you don't really enjoy or one that you're proud of. This is where in the accountability code commitments are very important, because I always tell people like, yes, I'm your loving kick in the pants, but I don't care if you listen to me. I care if you listen to you. That's what accountability is all about. So that brings us to the last step of the accountability code, which is feedback. Feedback is information used as a basis for improvement. And I could imagine that this might be one of your favorite ones, similar to mine, because we're all about taking action. You never know what's going to happen until you actually do the thing. So what would you say in your career, whether it's business or basketball, has been some of the highlights of the fruits of your labor, if you will? What's some of the feedback you've gotten that you're like, yeah, I did the right thing. I'm making the right choice. I'm on the right path.
Well, number one thing these days, just as an entrepreneur, is just seeing people get results, seeing people get a result based on something that they learned from me or something that I helped them do, and then helping them move forward, knowing that they know that I can help them with whatever challenge that they have. That's the biggest thing. And it's also a good form of social proof, which helps bring the next person in, whoever it's going to be. As far as an athlete, of course, it was just making it to the professional level, coming from the background that I came from. that result. And then just being on the internet and people reaching out to me and saying, hey, who taught you how to play? How often do you practice? Can you make more videos about this, this, and this? Or can you answer this question? Or how do you deal with this challenge? And the players knowing that I could probably address it simply because they saw what I was already doing. Those are all answers to your question there. And what I tell people, like with feedback, is I just use the word results-based business. It's the same thing. Is that I tell people we're in a performance and a results-based business. You work on your game so that you get an opportunity to perform. And then when you perform, you got to produce results. And if you produce results, then you can write your own ticket. You basically can dictate to the world what they need to do in order to get for you to produce that result again. So that's feedback is the outcomes. What are the outcomes? And we're looking at the results that get produced from whatever it is that we do. And that's how you're going to be judged, or the outcomes, not the stories, but the outcomes. You tell your story if you're producing enough positive feedback that people actually want to know the story.
Yeah, that's true. I like that a lot. That reminds me of Gary Vee that says, you have to give people what they want, essentially, or else they're not going to really care. Everybody is really in this life for themselves. And if you can display how you can support them in that journey, then, you're going to get your foot in the door much easier. So in your initial goal of getting more people in your programs and expanding your word, what feedback are you receiving that's going to help you shift moving forward?
Good question. I'm not sure I'm going to shift. I think what we really need to do is, or if we shift, it's going to be second gear to third gear to fourth gear.
Yeah, yes.
That kind of shift. I usually drive automatics though, so I don't even know how to drive a stick. But what really we want to do is just make sure they're consistently eyeballs on what I'm doing. I just want there to consistently be eyeballs on what I'm doing. And then over time, bring in other people who can take care of certain tasks so that we can supply what those eyeballs actually want to see, because there's only one me. So as long as there are more people coming in, then we're going to need more people to deal with those people who are coming in. And that would just be a matter of putting the process in place and the structure in place that allows the process to continue as I wanted to see it happen. So that'd be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I love that. My book was endorsed by Marshall Goldsmith. I worked with him for a while, and he's the highest paid executive coach in the world. And I was, nervous to work with him, but at the same time, I picked up his books and I was like, I could have wrote this. Like, this is the same sort of thing. We're all amazing, different people, but the principles of life and principles of accountability are all going to be the same. So with everything that we've talked about, can you give us a book recommendation or two of yours that will help listeners continue their journey of accountability?
Of course. It'll be this book right here behind me. I don't know if we're on camera.
We are. Listeners won't see it for a while,
so,
but yeah. Dre has got a whole shelf full of books behind him. And, as we know, he's written a lot of them. So
this book right behind my right shoulder here is called The Third Day. It's the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. And that book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. So the example that I use for that is you go to the gym, you just sign up for a gym membership for the first time in 5 years because you want to lose 30 pounds. First day, you feel great. Workout kicks your butt because you haven't worked out in a while, but you drag yourself home and say, I'm doing this. The second day, it's a little bit harder because you got the soreness from day one and you're not in shape yet. And the workout's a little bit tougher, but still pretty new. Still has that new car smell. You drag yourself home and say, I'm doing this. By the third day, your body and mind are already having a difference of opinion. Your shoes feel like they're made of cement. You don't want to talk to the smiling person at the front desk. You don't want to hear your trainer's mouth. And already you're trying to decide, am I actually going to show up to the gym? Now, you're already saying to yourself, you might text your trainer and say, just charge me for the session. I'm not coming in. By the third day, you're already questioning whether or not you should keep it up because the discipline is not there yet. So the third day is not so much the occurrence as a decision. What are you going to do in that moment when it's not fun, when you don't feel so great, when your energy is not perfect? Are you going to show up and perform or are you not? Because as a professional, as soon as you take somebody's money, I don't care if it's at a job, as an entrepreneur or anywhere in between, as soon as you take money, now you got a business relationship and now you don't have a choice but to show up. Mm-hmm. You have to show up. As an amateur, there's no money involved. You can choose to not show up if you don't want to. But as a pro, you got to show up. I mean, you look at the sports world, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Do these people did they always feel like playing in every game? Probably not. But could you tell? You shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't be able to tell. Like there are times, Marcy, I'm sure, when you don't feel like turning on this mic and recording an episode of your show, but you still do it. And none of your listeners should be able to tell which episode you didn't feel like recording because it should sound the same every single time. Right.
Yeah.
As a speaker, as a coach, or there are probably times you got to get on a coaching call and you don't feel like it, but your client shouldn't be able to tell that you didn't feel like getting on that call, right?
Yes.
So as a parent, you're a parent.
Yes, 4 daughters.
Okay, so there are times you probably don't feel like dealing with one of them, but they shouldn't be able to tell, right? That's what a professional is. And that you show up and give your effort and perform every single time, even when you don't feel like it, but it should not show in your performance that you didn't feel like it. That's what a professional is. And what the third day is about is how do you put the structure and the system in place so that that becomes a normal way of operating. And that book's free. Anybody can get that book for free. Just go to thirddaybook.com. Just cover the shipping. $9.95 to the US. We'll ship you a physical copy of the book.
Oh, perfect. I love that. I was thinking of how I can add value to that. And I'm like, no, mic drop right there. And what's the one thing you said, give your best effort on the worst day, or did I get that wrong? What is that?
Give your best effort when you least feel like it.
Yes. I think there is a lot of power in that. And I think it's kind of the catch-all answer of like, you said you wanted this thing, this is what it's going to take, or discipline. That's right. That's the definition of discipline. So exactly. I absolutely love that. I love the conversation that we've had. I've loved that the value you've added to each and every person who listens, because, you know, they listen to this podcast because they want that reason to get up and do it. And to finish off, what would you say to people who are maybe not sure in their abilities, or they're scared to do that thing that they know they should?
Well, it's normal. The reason you feel scared to do the thing that you know you should do is because to do the thing will push you outside of your comfort zone. The comfort zone exists for a reason. Comfort zone exists to keep us comfortable and to keep us safe. And in order for you to get anything different than what you currently have or what you currently be getting in your life, you have to step out of the zone that you're used to and step into something that is uncomfortable for you. And when you feel that discomfort, you feel that fear, you feel that resistance, that is your subconscious, your lizard brain, as what's the guys who wrote The War of Art? Stephen Pressfield. That's what the Stephen Pressfield says, that your lizard brain is calling you back to stay in a place that is safe. This is the reason why most people never change in life, because they listen to that lizard brain, that voice that says stay in your same space, and they don't step outside of it. But it's also the reason why the coaching and consulting industry exists, because people like Marcy and people like myself, we exist to help people like you step outside of your comfort zone where you know you'll be safe, you know you'll be taken care of, you know you have someone you can turn to who will help you step outside of that zone where it's uncomfortable, but then we will help you make it comfortable. We are going to provide the structure that will produce the discipline that will help expand your comfort zone so you can expand your life, expand your performance, and as a result, expand your outcomes. That's the reason why this exists.
Yes, I love that. As a result, and you know, results can't happen until you actually do stuff. So my favorite thing about the accountability code is that you take that feedback and it starts all over again, back into reflection. You say, hey, what am I going to do now? What did I learn? How am I elevated? How am I a new person today than I was yesterday? So Dre, thank you so much for your message and your expertise and for your willingness to share openly and freely with my listeners. I really appreciate you being here.
Of course. Well, I appreciate you presenting me the opportunity, and hopefully your audience gets some great stuff from this.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.